First of all, congratulations, Damini, for the great marks in psychology and again coming in the list. It's a matter of pride for you and for me also.
Thank you so much, sir.
So, starting with the very cliche question, the strategy for psychology.
So my strategy has been to stick with the basic sources. So when I started with NCRTs and I finished those NCRTs. And then I stick to the sources that the toppers have said. And repeatedly, many toppers have said to stick with Barron, Cicerelli. These two sources were primary sources for psychology, paper one, and then paper two, just the Smarak and Swain. This was my initial thing to do. And secondly, in my strategy, I included that I should have my own notes. So I made notes on every chapter that were just my own and not copied from here and there. But I included the material from wherever I could find the good things that were required. And third was that this time I have referred to Srinivas sir's notes a lot. And for the things that I was not getting anywhere. So, for example, in personality, there were many tests that were there. So, Srinivas sir has made very good notes on them. And then I didn't refer any other institute or material. So, those just I collated the notes and I made my own notes. And then, secondly, sir, in psychology, I think answer writing was very important. So, I focused more on answer writing, getting the conceptual clarity and reviewing it by either the peer or the mentors like you or any other institutes. So this was the major things. At first, my own note should be there and conceptual clarity. And third is the answer writing should be proper.
Okay. So, first, I will again thank Shri for his beautiful notes.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Like
That
last year,
his notes have been savior for many of the topics for me. I couldn't find the material otherwise.
last year, he had a great score in psychology just because of his notes and his answer writing. He should have scored more with more answer writing. He was but lazy. So I'm saying it clearly. Then again, another relevant question is from the notes only. How to make a note of a particular topic? For example, you have a personality theory for Carl Jung or Sigmund Freud or
Yes.
Erikson. So how you make notes?
Sir, in notes, first of all, I'll see the previous year question papers before making the notes, that what kind of questions are asked from a particular topic, so that I know that how much breadth and depth I need to cover in my note making. And then when I see, for example, if I'm reading personality from Barron, then first I'll go through the entire personality chapter from Barron and then from NCRT, understand the concepts. And in the first go, I don't make notes. And then I will identify that what are the important topics that are in the syllabus. And in the question paper, they are also being asked. So, for example, in personality, Sigmund Freud. So, first, what was his concept of personality? First was that. So Sigmund Freud's definition of personality, then how the personality emerges. So I'll make the notes in point-wise format. I'll make a subheading and then I'll write the important core concept of that psychologist or from that topic. So in Freud's, for example, the three keywords were subconscious, unconscious, and the conscious mind. They need to be there. And there are technical definition in psychology, so it's not completely like art subject or neither completely science. It's a mix of both. So there has to be technical words included in every topic, and also some examples through which you can substantiate that this is the thing that a person has talked about. And then, sir, in note making, I also made it a point that I have some areas where I could add later on. If I find some good example in, for example, in GS subject, where I found a good example, which is relevant to this topic, then I'll write it down. So it was I used to collate it. It was like not just a static note, but a dynamic notes that I used to make. But also we need to make sure that notes should not be very bulky. It should be crystallized and very precise form, only the definition and the main pointers were in the words that the psychologist have said. Otherwise, I used to write it in my own words, that what I understand from this.
Okay. So from this interaction, I have got three brownie points for the note making. First, they should be objective. They should include the core concepts and definitions.
Yes, sir.
Second, they are dynamic. They are evolving. Like if you get some example, sorry, if you get some examples from your current affairs or from GS, you should inculcate. And
Yes, sir.
third, it should be crisp and precise, not very bulky.
Yes, sir.
So I request all the future aspirants and aspirants for preparing, work on the notes on these three parameters. Then you are all are able to make very good notes.
Yes, sir.
Going further, we know the content now. We know the note making now. Coming to answer writing, so everyone knows answer writing is necessary, mandatory. But if we think about the quantum, how much answer writing? So what's your opinion on that, Damini?
Sir, I think that it's not about the quantum for me, but when I realize that I'm comfortable in writing the answer, then I think that yes, now I know how to write the answer. So for me, answer writing was not a very difficult thing to achieve in UPSC, because I think in my childhood, from school and college, I was pretty much good in writing essays or answers, and I didn't had that problem of how to convey whatever I'm trying to say. I didn't had problem in writing my thoughts, but yes, in UPSC there is a time limit and a word limit. So I think that is a challenge here. So I think that requires a lot of practice. So I would say that when I started answer writing, first of all, we are just frozen that how should I start the answer. There are many methods which topper suggest. So for psychology, I didn't go that only I have to learn how to write psychology answers, but whatever I learned in GS answer writing, that I emulated here also, like writing in a point wise format. First of all, defining the keyword, then mentioning the author or the psychologist who has said this, and then coming on the other aspects which are asked in the questions. So I think in about when I have written about 30-40 answers, I was confident enough that if a question comes, now I know how to write answer. Not exactly the content, but I know how I have to approach the answer. So I would say that this can come only through previous year questions. Read the previous year questions and identify the approach through which you need to write this answer. That how should you start? You should start from a definition or through an example or through a theory, which is the most appropriate way. And then I used to make a structure in my mind of the answer, that how I need to divide the answer. For example, the first definition will come, then the major features of the theory, then I have to write the diagram and then application. Or if someone has asked to compare it with other theory, then how I'm going to compare it simultaneously. So, first of all, it's the mental structuring. When you reach that mental structuring part, I think that half of the battle is won in answer writing.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And to add on, like to all the viewers, I say that the best part of Damini's answer writing is her structure only. I never commented on her structuring while evaluating her copies, because when you saw her answer, it was well organized. It has appropriate subparts. Introduction is there, conclusion is there. So she has achieved a particular level, and going beyond that is a challenge for me. Like how to add on this, and you are on a particular stage, and you have to jump on the next stage. So it is something like in my childhood, one of my teachers used to say, scoring 80 to 90 demands equal efforts, and scoring 90 to 91 also demand equal efforts. Like you
Yes,
scored 80 to 90 and 90 to 91, both are equal efforts.
yes, sir.
So this is a challenge, and Damini worked on that. Like from 237, she has leapfrogged to 270, and it's this year I think it is among top three or top four scores in psychology.
Yes,
And like one aspect I also would like to add in answer writing is consistency. One of the students in Parisharam was Ankit. Like Damin is also known to him. He used to write consistently. Initially, he has some issues in answer writing. He's not able to make proper format, but he's very consistent and very hard work. Though he's not able to make this year, but he also scored great in psychology. I think 270 his score. So consistency is also a determining factor in, because more you put your efforts, both it will give you the equal fruits.
Yes, sir.
Now, my next question, Damini, is like between prelims and mains, how to manage optional or psychology with GS, because everybody complains, you can say, even I used to feel at a point of time that psychology is very time and effort demanding.
Yes, sir, definitely. Sir, I have even made this mistake in 2020 mains. So I had given almost 70% of my time to psychology between prelims and mains. But when the question paper came, I was not able to answer most of the questions, and I scored very low marks. Then it struck to me that no, I had to divide my time wisely between GS and optional, so that it's not that optional will take you to another level or just GS. You have to focus on both. So this time, what I did was that I divided my time almost equally, like 50% optional and 50% GS. And in that, I made sure that I'm writing that I have made a schedule of giving mock tests. And through that, I divided my time for GS and for optional. So if I have given 2 tests of GS1, GS2, 8 tests of GS, and then another 8 tests of psychology. So it was not weekly, but in a week, I need to give 1 test of GS and 1 test of psychology. So I divided my day only half. Like half I would read the GS subject and other half I would read the psychology. At least I'll finish 1 chapter of psychology. So every day I gave time to both GS as well as psychology. But on the later stage, when you reach the, let's say, 15 months before mains, then the priority becomes more. So GS, for example, we need to cover 4 GS paper in just 2 days, and they all are very diverse. The subjects are diverse. So I made sure that I'm giving more time to it. And I have collated all my short notes, because then we are having 5 days more for psychology, in which I can cover the gaps in my preparation. So before, I think 15-20 days of the mains exam, I devoted almost 50% of the time to GS as well as psychology. Later on, I gave more priority to GS. So
Okay. Next is like how to start answer writing and when to start answer writing after prelims. Like when to means just after prelims, and how means like daily test, full length test, or daily a question, something like that. So what's your approach?
sir, I think after prelims, I won't say that just start answer writing. If you have your notes prepared, and if first go through them, learn them, revise them, and then enter the test series, let's say 20 30 days, 20 days after the, or as the result comes, in those 20 days you can revise the content that you have made. And if you're not having the notes, then it is very important to make the notes first, because you need to learn those concepts so that you are able to reproduce there. And for GS also similar thing. I think that before prelims, one should have their notes at hand for all the GS subjects, because the 3 months time is very less to make notes and then revise and then appear for the test. And then you have to give around 20 mock tests. So it becomes very difficult. So first I would say that have your notes if you're not having it, and revise them thoroughly, and then enter the test series. What other thing that we can do is that while you are making notes and learning a chapter, just write 2 answers on a daily basis, especially for optional or and the previous year question if you have not answered before the prelims. So 2 to 3 answers, or the most important answer questions of that chapter, that topic, from the previous year questions, which are being repeated again and again. So those questions that have to be answered, I used to read a chapter, and then at night I would see what are the 3 most repeated questions or important questions from that chapter. Either I will structure it in my mind how to write the answer, or I will write just 1 2 questions if enough of answer writing is not done previously. Other, if it is done, then you can just go for a test series and write it weekly at least.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the chance to market my test series now. Yeah, like this year I am starting my PYQ Parishram. Like you rightly said, PYQ has a huge, you can
Yes,
say, tendency and potential to showcase the real UPSC.
yes, sir.
So like last year we used to write the normal question, but this year I started the PYQ Parishram for PYQs only, and I also provide the model answers. So-called model answers. There's nothing like model answer, but I put my experience and the inputs from people like you.
Yes,
So
sir.
this year you take rest. Next year you can start.
Yes, sir. Sir, even in, for example, in paper two, every year paper two is a mixture of the questions from previous year. In any other form, you just find the similar concepts being repeated again and again in different form.
See, like I also put analysis in PYQ. Like for example, for chapter one, paper one, there are only four broader themes. For
Mm-hmm.
example, one is the contribution of schools in psychology, psychology as a science. Third
Yes.
is contribution of psychology in society. One
Hmm.
is from the research aspect type. So these four themes, nothing other than that. Similar chapter wise, I just jotted down the themes. What are the key themes?
Yes,
And
sir.
as per that, I devised my test series. Okay, and then moving further, Damini, one more question, like number of students like even after answer writing, they stick into a plateau zone. They are not able to enhance their quality of answers. So how to do that? Because these are the very technical things, and when we are pressurized with time during the prelims and mains, we cannot think. Like it's not for a particular guy or girl who's doing it, but it's for everyone. It even it is applicable for me, and at times for you also, because see, there is no one to help when you are doing a mistake repeatedly, and the
Yes, sir.
biggest task or challenge is to unlearn it.
Yes, sir, definitely.
So, what's your take on that? Like, for example, psychology, you improved your marks by 41 marks, and that is a big achievement. If I think it's a very big achievement, because increasing a score in optional after 3 4 years is very difficult. I know a number of students whose score is getting reduced day by day because they were in a vicious cycle of those mistake and those unlearning aspect. So what's your take on that? How you keep on improving in answer writing, especially?
Sir, if I talk about my experience, so earlier when I used to write answer, uh, in my last attempt, what I observed was that for example, I'm having just 3 points in my mind to justify the question. I'll write 3 paragraphs on those 3 points, or just 4 paragraph, introduction and conclusion, and 3 paragraphs. Then I realized that they are just 3 points on all. Like even if you're writing it in 2 pages, they're just 3 points, and I'm not adding any other value. So that was my plateau. I was writing a good answer, uh, explaining everything very fluently in a good manner, but there was no add-on. They were just 3 points. So examiner would give me 4 marks at max because I have written just 3 points. Then I realized that this process won't go further. So I need to break it down. And then I have to unlearn that my art of answer writing was in a paragraph format earlier. I unlearned it, and then I made my answers in a point-wise format. Now I'm under one subheading, I was writing 4 to 5 points. Well,
Yes, I'm able to recall, like you have very much issue regarding it, how to write in paragraph format or in points.
point
Like you
format.
used to say, previous topper used to write in paragraphs, and how should I approach? So my take is the way you make your notes,
Yes, sir.
the same way you should write.
Yes, sir. So then I realized it that I should write more crisp points in my notes because I have written a paragraph in my copy, and so I'm reproducing the same in the answer sheet, and which is just fetching me 1 marks. Instead of that, I could break it down to 2 3 points. So there would be more diversity and more
Yeah,
visible.
more dimension should be there, and if possible, you should add heading to the points also.
Definitely, yes,
That
sir. So
this
that is how I made my notes again, and I revised them. That could be one sub point under which I will explain just one line, then another sub point in one line. So, so
another aspect is like number of aspirants say sir how to approach for paper two. honestly, my thinking is there's no big difference in paper one, paper two, as the questions are asked, both are applied in both papers. But
Yes,
still, it's a repetitive query, and students say there's no sir, other than one book, there's no such material, and we have to diversify our content and sources in that. Because if we keep on writing the same thing, we will again get the average marks.
yes, sir.
So how to approach in this?
Sir, in paper two, I was lucky enough to realize this very early that we just have one book and everyone is reading the same thing. Just marks when everyone is reading. So what I did was I made it very interesting that paper two should be interesting because it was, and I made it a point that my answer should also be interesting. So I utilized a lot of GS points and a lot of newspaper articles in my paper two. So, for example, in economic development or in entrepreneurship, I used to write the examples that I see around me in my paper. If community psychology is there, so whatever we learn in GS2 and SHG and governance, we can write the same points, but in a psychology answer writing manner. So that we link those concepts. For example, the concept of social energy, we can link into some SHG that we have learned in GS2. So I was giving more examples, then make a lot of diagrams. In GS2, we can make a lot of diagrams. There's a lot of scope. So that was one thing. And third thing is to link GS2 with paper 2 with paper 1. Sorry, not GS2, paper 2
Okay.
with paper 1. So earlier, my approach was to stick to whatever is the topic of the paper 2 and whatever the researchers are given. But now I link it to the paper 1 concepts, learning concept, memory, and all those things. For example, Bandura that we have learned in paper 1, now I'll write his name and write his theory in paper 2 whenever it is required. Or whenever I'm explaining the social learning process, I'll write his name. So that's how paper 1, paper 2 linking, and then examples and the diagrams. These three things that I think I did a lot in paper 2, and that's why I think I've scored also good.
Okay, like one more aspect, like I want to ask, like number of aspirants also say, is it relevant to write personal examples in psychology? For example, in education psychology, you are writing question regarding enhancing memory and mnemonics, and you mentioned your own mnemonic there, or like you have some tricks to enhance memory and any tool you know. So is it fine to write that?
So I think that one should stick with whatever is psychologically researched. For example, in mnemonics, there are many mnemonics which are very common and everyone knows. So if you write that thing, the examiner will just have a look at it and he will just correct, okay, that he has understood the concept and he has given the right example. But if you don't find any other, it should be a rare thing that you are giving the personal example. It should not be that in every question you are writing your own examples. Rather than GS examples, which are very prominent, everyone knows one should write those examples. But if yes, if you feel that there is a space left and you can't fill that gap and you don't know any other example at that point of time, then you can definitely write.
And another thing regarding answer writing, how to balance your answer, like how many citations or research should be mentioned regarding one topic, what is asked in the question, and how many generic points should be written, because I think there should be a healthy balance. But for you, what is that healthy balance?
So there are many topics in which much of the research is not available. So especially in paper 2, for example, I think the first chapter, health and all, there are not
The
much research.
entrepreneurship Indian specific Kakinada study, other than it's very difficult to find any.
Huh. So in that, it's a very like you have to identify that how to expand the thing that is given in the book. When it is asked in 10 marks and you just know like one paragraph on it, then expand on the similar lines and then add on the generic points. The first priority should be to at least half of the answer space should be given to the things that are already written in the book, and then we can add on our own generic points that we feel or that we have collected from, or interlinking can be done. So if you're not able to write from the book, from the article that is given in the book, then link it to the GS1 paper.
But just sorry to interrupt you, but this interlinking word is, who knows interlinking, whoever knows can do it.
Yes,
But
sir.
anybody who is struggling with it still struggles with it. So the how aspect is very necessary in answer writing. That's why I'm always asking you the how to do that. How you thought about it, how you give a thought about it. Yeah, I'm going to do interlinking in this manner. Like you improved your marks, you give us three fundas. One
Yes.
is your diagram writing. One, the second one is aspect is just interlinking the things. Third one is practice. So how to do that interlinking? Just as any example in your mind that will work, because it's very necessary to interlink things in UPSC, not in psychology or anywhere in answer writing in GS also. But how to provide those interlinking dimensions is a challenge for aspirants, as per my experience as a mentor also.
Yes, sir. Sir, as a particular example, mm I am not able to remember it, but I have made a list of many topics that I used to interlink with paper one and paper two.
Yeah. This is the
So,
tool I'm just asking. Ki
yes,
just
sir.
make a list.
Yeah.
Like, well, in
So,
my
for
case,
for example, in paper one, for example, education psychology is there. Then I made just a list of topics which I can quote. For example, memory chapter, this thing I can quote, deep
yes, yes,
learning. Then from personality chapter, that how people take the knowledge. So for example, introversion and extroversion. So extroversion will take from real life example, just for example. And then uh, memory is there, personality. Then other side, Dweck's theory is there, that deep learning, process level
yeah.
learning.
This is required. Just
Yes.
whatever you said, it's a perfect example to interlink things. So the takeaway is to all the aspirants. So please make a note in the end of the chapter wherever you're not making. So we can, for example, for education psychology, write down the topics from paper one and
Yes,
just
sir.
try to recall it and write down and then again refer. Okay, this can also be added.
This can also be. Yes, sir.
And one more thing to add, like number of students has a queries, sir, how we are not able to memorize so many names. So please chapter wise make a table and
Mm-hmm.
just keep revising, put it on the on your study table anywhere, chapter wise, keep revising them. On the day you are able to recall, just
Yes,
believe
sir.
yourself.
So even in paper two, there are so many Indian psychologists, and their
Yes,
names are very generic, like
very
Girish
generic. Yeah,
Mehta,
Mishra and Tripathi.
Pandey,
Yes,
and
yes,
they are not able to recall which one is where. So then I identified that in particular chapter, these four psychologists are important. In
yes, yes,
next, these four are important. Just recall those four. Don't bother about that you are linking the same theory or not, but just remember the four names. And then later on, you can associate that, okay, you remember these four names, this is from this chapter, and then which theory. For example, D. Ritter and Tripathi, the norm violation theory, or then just recall it again and again. So,
and one more thing I would like to add for Damini, that like her Pro Max level of notes are, she's also making diagrams chapter wise. So by the
yes,
end of the day, she is able to even interlink diagrams also, because at a level you can interlink diagrams also.
yes,
For
sir.
example, this delayed gratification can be interlinked with the reward theme.
Hmm.
Our rewards are always good for motivation. This
Mhm.
theme is very much asked by the UPSC, so you can add that diagram there also. So
Like, sir, there is one graph. There are many graphs which can be used. Like of in sports, we have the Yerkes Dodson law,
yeah,
arousal
why
theory.
did I guess?
That can be applied in many questions. So, for example, in crowding, you are having a high level of arousal, and your level of performance will decline. You can use it
Yes,
there. So just be open-minded and just see where other areas this thing can be applied. Just so learn minimum things and apply it to maximum.
yes. Like till now, out of our interaction, one key thing that even I learned, that you have to practice more, you have to sweat more in the battlefield so that you bleed less in the battle.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
definitely.
mm, keep practice more, and you have to evolve your notes. The quality of your notes decides your selection, I think.
Yes, sir. I agree with this.
And lots of answer writing with me.
Yes, sir, sure. So even I would say that the way you reviewed my answer, I was very much satisfied. And I had from the model answers, even the model answers that you have given, I used to pick up important diagrams and important examples that you have mentioned, and I used to write it in my own notes
Thank you.
wherever I could apply. And so a big thank to you, sir.
Thank you for such a nice marketing. Like honestly, I say, other than this humorous talk, like I always try to put the best effort to make an appropriate model answer, which should include the proper researchers, diagrams, even examples also. For example, there is regarding nudge theory. I read that book, Richard Thaler. I get 20 different case studies. I read the Niti Aayog behavioral science implementation booklet. I get 10 different case studies from there. I also shared with you during exam.
Even sir, in I remember the Niti Aayog booklet that you gave. There were case studies, and the case studies that you mentioned, that this could be used in community psychology. So I just made it there, written it in my notes that I will use this case study. So in paper two, many questions were repeated. Even the questions themselves.
Themes are even a single paper. You have to write the same
Yes,
answer twice,
right.
just tweaking it little bit.
So
Presentation.
so in this time I made sure that I'm having different case studies at least for two similar
Yes.
questions.
Yeah, this is a beautiful strategy. Like
Yes.
you have 2-3 different case studies or examples. If same question is asked, so you can mention 2 to 3 different case studies in different answers. Nice. And like I think we have a good discussion at least regarding answer writing and note making, also regarding content also. So like overall, as per my understanding and experience of psychology, I would like to add that uh, Damini, from like she has been selected twice in UPSC, and she has developed a knack for answer writing in psychology, also in GS also. But especially regarding, like, we stick our conversation to psychology only. In psychology, you reach the level, and this time you leapfrogged it. But reaching a level also demands some kind of hard work and some groundwork. So please share that groundwork also, and the importance of mentorship if you want to mention. Like just tell the groundwork. Because there are a number of people who are preparing on their own, sitting in the home.
Yes, sir. So earlier I was also in the same place that many aspirants are. And what I made sure first, I used to think that psychology should be one subject which will take me through in this UPSC journey. So this time it has done wonders to me. Last time it was not the case. But yes, I still gave a lot of time last time to my optional. And
This
I
time I'm this time my Midas touch is there. I'm a bit self-boasting, but I'm enjoying it. Thank you.
So, so groundwork, I would say that I have given a lot of time to psychology,
Yeah.
understanding the concepts. I used to watch YouTube videos. For example, the Crash Course, I think YouTube channel is there, which
Yeah,
explains
good
very,
courses.
yeah. So I used to watch a lot of videos, and I used to read. If I'm not able to understand or grasp a concept, then I will search on internet and to understand it properly, that what exactly this thing is, because the terms are very simple, like self, we know intuitively what is self, but in psychology
Very difficult word to
it's
explain.
very yes.
It's aspects, self-worth, self-esteem,
Huh.
like very difficult to comprehend it and write about
I
it.
did. Yes,
And
sir.
if you are able to understand it, it is one of the aspect. It can be used across dimensions in psychology. In every chapter you can use it, from
Yes.
education psychology to entrepreneurship. You have
Mhm.
to improve your self-esteem, and lot of research work is also there.
Yes, sir. So that is like one has to make sure that they don't write the answer intuitively, that what they understand, but what psychology says self is, what are its dimensions, what
Yeah,
are
just
its.
again I will add that I caution. This is a word of caution from my side. In paper 2, especially on paper 1 also, when there is a question which seems very generic, like
Yes,
GS word,
yes,
but
sir.
that is an alarming question. I request all of you to write psychology relevant content. Otherwise, you will get very less marks. In like psychology has also a beauty. When we write very generic things, it award marks in 2 figures only.
Yes, sir.
So I request all of you, and this is the horrifying factor people are getting away from psychology, because they think it is like other social science, but no, you have to be specific, you have to be objective, only then you will get good marks.
Hmm. So, sir, that was my approach, that when I prepared psychology from the scratch, so I made sure that I know the concept and I know the technicalities of that concept, that what it actually means. And I write it down in my copy. So note making has taken a lot of time for me, in especially paper one took a lot of time. And earlier I made bulky notes. I have been through this journey. I made very bulky
Yeah,
notes. And
just again,
I
how to concise these bulky notes is also a challenge, because initially we jot down everything, but
everything.
what to take up, what to drop, and how to make that whole note. Because as per my understanding, if a topic is not covered in half a page, then it's not a good note, because you
Yes.
cannot revise it the day before the exam. So how to precisely put those bulky notes in a one pager note for a particular topic, that is a challenge. How you address that?
Sir, I think that I made bulky notes, but when I revised them 2 to 3 times, then I knew half of the content of it. And then only the subtopic was enough for me. Sir, I won't say that at first go just made very short notes, because then you don't know what it means and then you will not be able to interlink it because you don't have clarity about that topic. You have just mugged up a simple subheading that this I have to write in this topic, but then you can't interlink it. So I would first say that either you read exhaustively and you read that book again and again and make short notes. Otherwise, if you're collating it from different sources, first make a note that if you read it, you are able to understand. And write it in your own words or mention all the important things you mention it, or you can make it electronically if you don't want to put a hard labor there. Then you can just crystallize them and write precise in your own handwriting so that you have good notes. So first I made bulky notes, but then I learned them thoroughly. I think I revised all of them before prelims for paper one. I'm talking about paper two. I didn't prepare much last time, but I put a lot of effort this time. So in paper one, I made notes, revised them, and then I made short notes out of them because I knew what it means and this much I can write, this much I'm able to recall. So then I condensed it and wrote very short notes. So this is one idea, that you learn, relearn, and then just make precise notes. And second is just cut down the clutter that you don't require. There are many things that we digress from the topic. We can write this also, but in 250 or 150 words at max, you can't write all those things. So cut down the clutter that you don't require. So there are many topics that I have written in bulky notes which are not at all relevant or not at all required. If, for example, in intelligence chapter, there are many theories which are not given in the syllabus. So stick to the syllabus, that these are the things. And in every topic, I need these 10 or 20 points out. Apart from this, then I don't need. So there is the clutter that we have accumulated from different sources. So cut on that. And then just made the precise note. Or you can just divide it in 5 headings, like what and how it came about, and compare it with other theories, examples, or the implication of the same theory or application to other topics. So these 5 aspects, if you're able to cover, then I think the job is done. Then you don't need to go and write all the things that are given.
I will watch this video again and write down these 5 points. I forget the initially. Okay, and the last thing from my end, Damini, is like if anybody wants to start psychology as an optional, like this optional has a magnetic tendency, that is interest. A lot of people have interest, but when they open the books, they lose it, and then they run away from it. So what do you want to say, that it's interesting, no doubt, like I love this subject, and that's why I'm still sticking with this. So how to continue this subject with interest? Because if you like, I never find it this optional difficult. I enjoyed this, and I always scored nice in this optional. You too, you are the same case. So just last few words for those who wants to take up this optional and get great score in UPSC with the help of this optional.
Sir, I would say two things here, that it's not necessary that only psychology can let a person to cross this journey.
Yeah, true.
So it's not that, and I have seen people who are not able to score good in psychology consistently. So it's not a cup of tea for everyone, what I have observed.
Yes.
So I think the main aim in the UPSC journey is to get into the list and do whatever is required to get into the list. If you're not comfortable with the subject, then there is no pressure to continue with psychology. But if you have chosen and if you have interest, but yes, motivation levels are going up and down every day. So then you need some proper, I think, guidance or some change in the strategy that you are able to sustain it. So first, if you're not liking this subject at all, and if you think it as a burden, then you can just go to any other subject that is scoring. But if you are in the process and it's just the case of motivation or interest is deviating day by day, so then I would say that make it interesting. That how, like, do answer writing and set targets for yourself. Then discuss psychology with friends. So one case with me was that I used to teach my mother that I have learned this concept and this we can apply it at home. Or
Yeah,
this.
like I just applied one of the concept of psychology is framing of question. I just framed a question so that you can use the word mentoring and guidance. Thank you. Just jokes apart, like because it's a very difficult thing to continue after having interest. Then they find that because initially they start with that this is a simple English, but it's not like that. It demands a lot of sophistication and understanding the core concepts, because all things which runs in the mind is not that easy. The things are a little complex, and decluttering them, you just rightly mentioned, is a difficult task and it requires sincere efforts.
So these are some interesting tidbits that I used to do and that discuss it with friends, that how psychology is helping you or how you can apply and study people. Like this was one thing that I used to like apply the concepts. So the theories that I have learned, what I'm observing, and then interlink the topics. This is a very interesting thing that I have done throughout. And sir, I would say that these were the things that make interest, develop interest by reading it, by watching videos. If you're exhausted by reading the same book again and again, watch a simple video on it on YouTube so that you get that interest back. Make your notes short, or link GS examples with psychology. That is a very interesting thing to do if you have psychology optional. And one more interesting thing is that in essay, what we can do is, it helped me a lot in essay psychology. So I used to always give a psychological perspective in my essays. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, I agree that I evaluated one or two essays of yours, and I find that there's an influence of psychological learnings you put in there, and I think that definitely give you X factor there also.
Yes, sir. So in essay, when people used to read my essay, they were impressed. So they said that could you link that psychology topics are very simple. Everyone knows, but they don't know how to write it. Psychology gives us that edge that you can write it. So that became a motivating factor for me. That yes, if I know the theories in a lucid manner, then I can.
Yeah,
Uh,
because in in essays also, like you have to put all the dimensions, and people forget to mention the dimension which is individual. The individual level explanation is required to put in the perspective of an individual how he see things. For example, a particular scheme like Janani Suraksha Yojana is there for a pregnant woman. So what are her feelings, cognition, and everything else regarding that scheme is there, so that that scheme could benefit her maximum. So if we put this kind of analysis at the individual level, then any scheme or any policy by government will be a hit.
hmm. Yes, sir. And yes, sir, as you have said, so I remember one point that I used to think a lot, that how can I apply psychology in administration if I'm at that place?
Well, yes, it's very important.
It's very important. So now you know that how humans are motivated. So now you know something going behind the background thing that is going in implementing a scheme. How will it be successful? What are the human factors involved in it? So you have some more knowledge than the people around you who are working in administration, because you know psychology. So that is one interesting thing. And
This is the reason behind, like, I shared those 100 questions for the interviews, that because I know that if we don't put those psychological concepts and aspects in the real life, then it will be difficult, because expectations are more when you go in front of that board and you tell you're a psychology option student. So they're really going to ask some difficult questions, especially human resource aspect.
Mhm.
So I try to just cover all those aspects in those 100 questions, and I think everybody scored great in psychology, psychology option student, 180 plus maximum.
Okay. Yes, sir. So these were my things to make it interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Damini. Anything you want to add? Uh,
Sir, I would say that for people who have opted psychology, I would say that it is time and effort demanding, and you really need the syllabus is small, but you have to apply it a lot. Your mind has to work continuously. It's not that you can just mug up and give your best there. It's not like that. So you constantly have to like develop psychological lens. Anything that you are reading, understand it from the point of psychology and inculcate in your answers. I think that is important, and just have an interest. And I used to have a lot of interest in reading Barron. I have read the same chapter again and again. Every time I used to learn something new, that, oh, I didn't mark it the last time. I didn't realize it, what is it saying the last time. So
yes.
it's a good subject, and it helps you not only in the exam, but beyond the exam in real life also, when you know the psychology. So yes, I would say all the best to everyone.
Thank you, Damini. Thank you for your precious time and your inputs. That is
Yes.
also enlightening for me. And thank you for thoda sa marketing me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Thanks.